It's MLB trade deadline predictions time. Hey everybody, hope you're doing well. Happy Saturday. So, off of the Yankees lost their fourth straight game, and the bullpen blew it last night. You know, they had a 3-1 lead heading into the ninth. Clay Holmes blew the save. Tommy Kahnle blew the tie, and that was it. The Yankees lost 5-3. And their bats didn't take advantage of any opportunities to move the ghost runner over or do anything like that. So it's on both sides. Period. So it is what it is. But with that said, there's a lot of people laying into me about stuff that I put forward when I said the other day, yeah, the Yankees lost, it sucked, but their schedule is a little bit lighter in August and September, so that's probably one reason why they're not in panic mode now, and a lot of fans are. Okay, that's a fact. That's not me sugarcoating something. Okay, if you're put off by that, that's on you. Okay, I do not do fair weather fan stuff. Okay, I won't do it. I'm not going to pull myself off as real and then peddle propaganda. Other people do that, not me. Okay, that's a simple fact. I'm going to keep it that way too. I like to find this, and this is from a long time, martial arts practitioner as an instructor. We find ways to elevate people, right? We do not publicly chastise people. We don't do it ever. We publicly praise, we privately criticize. Okay, you may have a different mentality. That's totally fine. Okay, but I want you to think about this. If you have a close friend or a loved one or a family member that was having dealing with a lot of adversity and was having trouble getting out of it, and whether it be friends or family members or people that were just dumping all over them, attacking them, would you be upset by that? Probably so, right? I know I would. Okay, well, let's think about that. Let's put this in the Yankees' perspective here, in the Yankees' lens. The Yankees are having trouble getting out of adversity. And all people are doing is dumping on them and playing the blame game and this, that, and so on and so forth. Yeah, there's a fair share of blame to go around, but every single day laying into them, have you ever dealt with that type of adversity? Would you like people to dump on you every single day? Are you prepared to handle that? That's the question I have for you. Okay? I've dealt with serious adversity. So comments laying into me, it doesn't faze me at all. That's weak stuff for me. Okay? That's why I call people out for bullshit on a regular basis. And that's why I ask people when they make comments, I ask people, can you elaborate on it? Or tell me why. When it's fire Boone, fire Cashman, I ask who we're going to replace him with and why. Very rarely do I get who, and never do I get the why. I'm giving you an opportunity to present your argument. No. Crickets, 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 crickets. That's not on me. Never will be. I state my position, whether it's good or bad. Okay? Yeah. And there are times I've been critical of Boone and Cashman. There are times I've defended them. And rightfully so on both sides. But I don't feel the need to lay into them every single day. There's no need, especially from behind the screen. I would rather be in front of them and figure out a way to get through it rather than attack them from behind the screen where they're in no position, nowhere to defend themselves. To me, that's a joke. It's coward stuff. Okay? So, but with that said, people are going to do what they're going to do, right? I have something more fun today. I have the lineup for you today, too. So, but we're going to go for my 2024 MLB trade deadline predictions. And again, this is my predictions that if guys get traded, where I think they're going to get traded to. Okay? I have sleeper teams as well, but I'm just going to give you my predicted team. So let's get into this. And guys and gals, make sure if you're not subbed to this channel, okay, please do that and hit the notification buttons, okay? Real talk comes a lot of different ways, okay? It's not only one side, okay? There are real fans everywhere, whether they agree or not. And having the ability to agree and disagree is a good thing. Like I say repeatedly, when people disagree with me, state your argument. If it's a credible one, I have to consider it, right? That's going to elevate the conversation. Make me think about why I'm not thinking that way. Put a position forth that could light a bulb in my head, rather than I'm right all the time. I'm the only one that's right. And if you don't believe me, you're not a real fan. You're delusional. That to me is propaganda. Okay, I don't buy it. I don't find any of it credible. So, but that's just me. People have different opinions. That's totally fine. And again, it's up to you to decide. I don't buy the whole don't tell me how to fan while I tell them how to coach and while I tell them how to own. Do you have any idea how ridiculous that argument sounds? Nobody's telling you how to fan. Not here. Just because we might not agree with you, we might, well, I can't speak for everybody else. Just because I might come up with a counter argument and say, have you thought of this? And so on, so, or just because I defend the team because I am a fan and I stick with them no matter what. Okay, just because I defend the team doesn't mean I'm being delusional. And it definitely doesn't make me a fair weather fan. I'm not bailing on them when they play bad. That's part of baseball. Okay, let's get to the predictions. Let's have some fun. First up, Randy Arozarena from the Tampa Bay Rays. I do think, look, the Atlanta Braves have lost Ronald Acuna for the season, right? I do think they want to bring in another impact player, and I think some time away from Tampa Bay will probably do Randy Arozarena some good. And this is the time for Tampa to trade a couple of players if they're really not going to go for it. Okay, and Atlanta Braves seem like a logical fit right at this point. And adding Arozarena to Acuna next year would only make them more formidable. And I do think this is maybe one of a couple moves that they would make. Okay. On the flip side, Tyler Anderson from the Angels. I haven't gone to the Cincinnati Reds. Look, we saw what the Cincinnati Reds did with the Yankees. Their pitching held the Yankees down, unfortunately. That's the reality, right? And it is what it is. I see them adding to a strength because you don't know how long Frankie Montas is going to be reliable, but they want to add to that because they are competing in the NL Central right now. And the more pitching, the better. If you want to figure out a way to neutralize bats from the Braves, the Phillies, the Dodgers, you need to add another more pitching. Tyler Anderson's having a pretty damn good year. So Tyler Anderson to the Cincinnati Reds. Moving on, we've got Paul Blackburn is the other Braves move I have. I think they're going to add a pitcher too because they lost Spencer Strider to Tommy John surgery. And I think adding a bat and adding an arm will keep the Braves at the top of the competitive scale in the National League East and in the National League. Right? It's them, the Dodgers, the Phillies, and a team here and there. But they are a powerhouse right now, the Braves. And adding Paul Blackburn and getting him away from Oakland, where he'll have some value and play for a competitive team, I think will do him some good. Would it cost a little bit? Sure, but he's not having a career year right now, so it makes sense for the Braves to try to acquire him. Now on the bottom, I do see if the Mets move on from Pete Alonso, it may not happen. Okay, because the Mets are playing much better now. They're putting themselves in a position to be a wild contender at the very least. I don't see them making the playoffs, but if they really want to get a good package of prospects back, and Seattle is ready to be aggressive, they are ready to trade, they're ready to buy. Pete Alonso could be the impact back that the Mariners need right now, and he would be, I think, a good fit. Send him to the American League. That way, the Phillies don't have to do him. Now, what the Yankees have to deal with, and he tends to hit well against. Stink for us, but Seattle Mariners at this point, I think, are going to be pretty aggressive at the trade deadline because I think they can compete in the NL West. I mean, the Astros are playing much better now. The Rangers are kind of hanging in there, but it looks like a two-team race in my opinion, with the Mariners and the Astros. So Pete Alonso goes to Seattle. Next up, Carlos Estevez. This is the guy that people talked about recently. Okay, with Luis Rengifo. They're two Angels players here. Now, Luis Rengifo's on the IL right now. A 10-day IL with, I think it's wrist inflammation. That could turn into a multiple weeks thing. So we have no idea. But I do think that probably takes the Yankees out of the potential bidding for a Luis Rengifo. I really do. So I see Carlos Estevez, who could add to the Yankees bullpen too. I think the Mets are going to swoop in and get him. Okay, and I could see Luis Rengifo going to the Texas Rangers because they're going to try to figure out a way to compete with the Astros and with the Mariners. And adding an impact bat like that, once he's healthy, and adding some versatility to that lineup, I think will be a good thing for the Rangers. So Rengifo, I have him going to Texas. Next up, Garrett Crochet, one of the big gems of the offseason or the trade deadline. I have him going to the Baltimore Orioles. I think they're going to put their chips in a big bucket and go for the biggest arm. He is the biggest arm at the deadline by far. Okay, but his teammate Michael Kopech, I have him going from the American League to the National League, and again, joining the St. Louis Cardinals. And again, there's a lot of teams in the NL Central and just the NL across the board that are hovering right around 500 or just a bit under that are still in contention. So I think the Cardinals at this point need to add a pitcher. Okay, they've got Sonny Gray, they've got Lance Lynn, they added some other arms, but I think they need to add another arm. Michael Kopech could represent a good strikeout arm for that bullpen for the Cardinals. And again, Garrett Crochet, I think he'll make the Baltimore Orioles that much more formidable. I think they feel like they're a piece or two away, and Garrett Crochet is a huge piece for them to acquire. Going to cost them a lot, yes, but he'll be worth it. Next up, Alex Bregman, if he gets traded from the Astros. Now, I don't know if he's going to get traded because the Astros are playing better. But if you want to get some value back, since he's going to be a free agent, Chicago Cubs look like they're willing to spend and willing to be aggressive. And I do think Cody Bellinger is going to be moved on. I think they're going to move on from Bellinger. So who better to replace him with than Alex Bregman? And you can pair him with Dansby Swanson in the infield, give him another. And one of the other things too, if the Cubs, make a postseason run, there's not many people who are much more clutch in the postseason than Alex Bregman. Okay, that's another fact. So Bregman to the Cubs. Vlad Guerrero, I think he's going to stay with the Blue Jays. I think there's going to be a lot of talk about him going here, him going there. I know there's been talk about him coming to the Yankees, communicating a willingness to play for them. At the end of the day, I don't think it's going to happen. I really don't. I think he's going to stay with the Blue Jays. So especially if they become a little bit more competitive in the AL East. Okay. Next up, Brent Rooker, I think, is going to be one of the quiet gems this offseason. Big, potent bat with multiple controllable years. Will he cost a lot? Yes, but Kansas City Royals in a position now in the AL Central to really try to add to Bobby Witt and make a run to the playoffs. They're my sleeper playoff team, and I think they're going to add one or two players potentially on the offensive side. They loaded up with pitching in free agency. I think they're going to load up with offense at the trade deadline. Brent Rooker represents a guy who hits with a lot of power, puts the bat on the ball on a regular basis, and can add a dynamic to the Royals that they haven't really had since Salvador Perez stopped hitting 40-plus home runs a year. So Brent Rooker would bring a nice addition to that Kansas City team. Now, the other player down below, Luis Robert, superstar. He's another guy. I have him joining Pete Alonso in Seattle. Seattle has the resources and the balls to be able to pull off a Robert trade and the Pete Alonso trade. And if they get both, they are going to be serious contenders. They're going to be hands-on favorites in the AL West. Okay, so I've got Seattle, Luis Robert Jr. going to the Mariners, with the Phillies lurking quietly. But I've got them at the end of the day staying in the American League. Next up, Tanner Scott, reliever. I think the Yankees are going to get him. Okay, this is a Marlins page here. Okay, Marlins slide. Tanner Scott, I think the Yankees are going to do. And look, the fact is, the Yankees need to probably acquire two arms, or at least trade for one and call up one for the bullpen. And they need to address two bats. So I think they're gonna trade for a bat, and I think they're gonna probably call up a bat if they don't trade for two bats. Okay, I think they could have traded for two bats, but Luis Rengifo going on the IL, I think kind of diminished that possibility. It's still possible. It can still happen. They can trade for somebody. But at the end of the day, I think they're going to trade for one bat and trade for one arm in the bullpen. Tanner Scott's the arm is a difference maker. And again, with a lot of folks losing faith in Clay Holmes' ability to close games for the Yankees, and it's really hard to blame the fans for feeling that way, Tanner Scott's somebody who can step in and either co-close or take over closer on the Yankees. And he's going to be a free agent at the end of the season too, just like Clay Holmes would be. But if Tanner Scott comes here and he plays well, maybe they'll re-sign him, and maybe he'll move on from Holmes. We never know. Never know. Scott to the Yankees. Jazz Chisholm, that's my other piece to the Kansas City Royals. I have the Royals and the Mariners being very active at the deadline. Okay? Quiet teams, right? Not sexy at all. Kansas City Royals, but could you imagine adding Rooker and Chisholm? I mean, speed and offensive firepower. And again, Chisholm would, his defense would probably be an improvement there because he'd be paired with Bobby Witt Jr. So, but bringing that somebody who could table set at the top of the lineup for guys like Witt and Rooker gives the Royals another dynamic in a couple different ways, just like Alonso and Robert would give the Mariners a dynamic. So, Jazz Chisholm I have going to the Royals, and finally I've got Mason Miller. I have him staying with the Oakland A's. I don't think anybody's going to wind up ponying up the package that the A's are going to require. Okay, the package is going to go to the White Sox for Garrett Crochet, and I think it's going to come from the Baltimore Orioles. And lastly, Cody Bellinger. I have him going to the New York Yankees. The question is, can they get him without trading Ben Rice? Can they keep Ben Rice and trade Augustin Ramirez instead? That way, Ben Rice can potentially play first. I mean, be a catcher, and then Bellinger can play first base. And if he happens to opt out at the end of the year, then we can move Ben Rice back to first base. Okay, and the Yankees would not be committed to the $50 million owed to Cody Bellinger in 25 and 26 combined. So those are my main predictions. This is going to be a lot of other guys that I think are going to be potentially moved. A lot of guys we're not thinking about. But these are my mainstays right here. I don't think Bo Bichette's going to get moved either. Should he? Probably. And where? Maybe the Dodgers. I didn't put a slide there. My apologies. But I do think if he gets moved, he goes to the Dodgers. So I do think they have the package. And I do. And if you, surprisingly, I haven't added the Padres to these predictions. I haven't added the Dodgers to these predictions. And but if they do, they'll probably strike quietly like they always do, and they'll probably shock everybody like they always do, like the Padres did with Luis Arias, okay? Like the Dodgers have done recently too. Those will be the shocker trades, and guys that we're not even thinking of will probably be the guys that these teams will get. So we're less than 4 weeks away, gang, from the deadline, okay? So this is going to be fun. I've got a round table coming tonight. Oh, and by the way, here's the Yankees lineup, okay? Ben Rice leading off at first base. Juan Soto batting second at DH, getting half a day. Aaron Judge in right field batting third. Alex Verdugo in left field batting fourth. Anthony Volpe batting fifth at shortstop. Trent Grisham's in center batting sixth. Jose Trevino's at the dish. Okay, batting seventh. Oswaldo Cabrera's batting eighth, second base. DJ LeMahieu's batting ninth at third base. And on the mound, hoping to continue his great pitching comeback, is Garrett Cole. We need him to pitch well. We need the Yankees to beat the Red Sox, okay? I think they're 5.5 games behind. No, 5 games behind us now, or 6 games behind us. So it's not that close, but it's also not that far. And the last thing I want to do is sleep on these guys. So, but give me your thoughts on the predictions. Give me your thoughts. And again, the trade deadline, I think we're going to have to wait until moves start making, with the exception of an incremental trade that the Rays made with the Brewers. That's the only trade that's really happened so far. The bigger names are going to be moved closer to the deadline because teams are going to want to forge a bidding war for their players. And that happens every year at the trade deadline. So stay tuned, gang. Okay, there's a lot coming. Get ready. But let's go Yankees. See y'all tonight. By the way, I'm doing a live table tonight, a round table discussion on the Yankees trade deadline. That's going to be lit. I have a bunch of content creators coming. It's going to be a fiery discussion. So get your popcorn, get your soda ready. Let's rock and roll. See you tonight. Go Yankees.